Well, thanks for having me. It's great to meet everyone, and so cool that you're putting this on. I think this is really, really awesome. So, yeah, happy to go over a kind of quick background on myself. It's sort of interesting because I kind of came into computer science in an unconventional way. I didn't really know any programming or real math or science or anything like that prior to undergrad. Um, so first discovered it in undergrad. It was really, really tough. Like I struggled with the first couple quarters of computer science, and I sort of initially got into it. I was generally curious about it, but what really got me into it was just kind of like seeing other people building really cool stuff, and I was like, I would love to be able to build cool stuff like these my peers are doing. And trying it out for like a quarter was really, really difficult. I took this one class that some of you may have heard of called CS 106A at Stanford, and like it's like hard to do bad in that class, but I did bad. So the learning curve for me was really steep, but I really loved what it was. So I love the concept of it, like kind of being problem solving at its purest form. And I stuck with it, and I did the next course, CS 106B, and then I did another course and another course. And over time, I just really started to fall in love with the whole thing. So I think maybe one of the first lessons is like give yourself the time and space to actually explore something that you really want to dive into, because if without that, you're never going to have that moment of latching onto it. And those things are really valuable to kind of like to give yourself the time and space to do that. So this is around the same time that I first discovered entrepreneurship as a general concept. And I hadn't really been that entrepreneurial or business minded, I guess, in school prior to this. My main thing, actually, funny enough, was completely unrelated, which was music. Like I'm a drummer, and like that was like my main thing growing up. And so again, coming in and seeing the cool stuff that people were building, this was a completely new concept to me. And I just like loved the whole idea of it. But it was really, really hard. Again, it was a huge learning curve. I tried one business freshman year. It kind of like totally face planted, as you might expect. And I got really down in the dumps. I mean, I was at a very low point. Also at that point, I wasn't where I wanted to be on the computer science side, the learning side. And I remember a few distinct moments where I could have just like given up and tossed the table over. But for one reason or another, I kind of just like woke up the next day and kept going. And that was like those progressions of like continuing to wake up was like probably the best decision that I made, because again, giving yourself the time and space to explore something, giving yourself some leeway, not being too hard on yourself if you're not accomplishing something, and then sticking with it. That is the key to like doing something meaningful in computer science, but just in general. And so, okay, that was like the first year of school for me. In the next couple of years, I started to like actually take a step back from like the entrepreneurship and business side. I was like really excited about it, but I knew that I needed to build my foundation a little bit stronger. And what I basically ended up doing is taking an internship at IBM Research, and I actually to this day don't even really know how I got it, how they let me in, because I definitely didn't have the resume for that type of thing. What I would say is just like be creative, apply to a lot of places, and definitely get your like resume or LinkedIn or whatever in the systems of record where they send it off to a bunch of people. Every school has one, and I think that's how they found me. That ended up being a completely transformative experience for me. I got to see, like, again, what I loved about computer science was that it kind of is problem solving at its purest form. And particularly in research, like what you're doing is like creating new knowledge. You're discovering really interesting problems and you're solving them. And so that was a really formative time for me as well. I'd sort of like gone through the foundations and the basics of like, trudging through an introductory computer science and like knowing how to program and things of that nature, and then was able to apply that in a real way, but in an environment that was safe. that I was able to actually explore things. And I think that was really important for me. It was like I had great mentors. I was able to do meaningful work in a relatively like safe environment. So that was good. And then coming out of that experience, that's when I started to really kind of explore building businesses and like entrepreneurship. And the first thing that I worked on, this is like, I guess, coming out of school, and then going to the master's program and the MBA program there, is a company called Access. And this is like a really great experience. I did it with a couple of peers in the business school. And we ended up scaling that to, we did a seed round for VC and then ended up selling it to Tata Group, which is a big conglomerate in India. And that was a really cool, like formative experience. It was like definitely on a lower scale, like the world of entrepreneurship. But again, you just need to like get the reps in and build up kind of that muscle. If you want to, this applies to every area of life, but particularly in entrepreneurship. And then the next thing that I worked on is Autograph. So the next thing I founded was Autograph, and that one ended up scaling a lot larger than Access, and it was again another incredible ride, and I had a blast with it. Recently became a senior advisor for Autograph instead of being full time to work on my next thing, which I hope is going to be even bigger. But yeah, scaled that to be a unicorn and co-founded it with Tom Brady. As people, they like the little buzzwordy parts of it. But that's a quick blurb on me. Maybe not so quick.
Josh, I have a couple of questions, and first of all, I have a lot of respect for you because I have a lot of respect for Hamza, and we're close friends. And when he looks up to someone, I look up to him a lot too. My first question to you is, were you part of Eric Schmidt's program for a little bit? The accelerator.
Yeah, it wasn't really an accelerator, but yes. So we did some stuff with Eric. I met Eric at a conference, like in 2021 or maybe like late 2021 or so. And I was an advisor for this venture fund / incubator that he was a chair of, and kind of advised and helped to guide one of the projects that I actually ended up bringing Hamza into.
Yes.
So yeah, that was fun.
Right. So you are, okay, perfect. That's how it connects the whole thing. The folks here know who Eric Schmidt is. I mean, a lot of us are younger, so might not know. But for folks who don't know, Eric Schmidt is the co-founder of Google.
He's not a co-founder. He was the CEO though.
He was
brought in after.
Correct. He was the CEO. He was not a co-founder. Correct. You're right. He came in after. Right. He was CEO.
He was very. The reason that Google is what it is today, like without a doubt.
Okay. I mean, that's great to hear. I didn't know that. Not know. Actually, you're correct. You're right, because they told the co-founder to step down, and he was the guy, right? So, what from the people that you've met, right? Do you have like a process that you do, like to like how do you absorb, like how do you learn from the people that you surround yourself with, and from both from the good and the bad? Because I'm sure like the whole world hears the good, but how do you learn? How do you adapt? How do you get better?
How do I get better based on the negative feedback?
Yeah, exactly, correct.
Yeah, so I tend to try to listen to this more than I do the positive feedback, which might seem a little bit unhealthy, but the thing is, people won't typically are more generous with like positive feedback, and they'll typically avoid giving you negative feedback. So whenever you do get it, it's actually like really strong signal. And so what I actually try to do, generally speaking, is whenever like I'm in a situation where, I have a mentor or someone who I can look up to, I'll actively ask them for feedback, and particularly like, what am I not doing right? What could I improve on? I think I've always been relentless at like just trying to find the things that I can improve on, and that's a trait that has helped me personally grow as a person, and I think it's a generalizable thing to other founders or other professionals, really in any category actually. So would definitely encourage you all to actively pursue self like improvement through like receiving feedback from others and looking for that way to like take the extra step in your personal development.
Love it. Sajad, are you here? I would love if you can ask Josh a question. So are you here, Sajad?
Yeah, yeah. Hey.
Go ahead. Take it away, man.
Hey. So I guess I make like a lot of content, and one of the biggest questions that I get is so I'm just like this beginner. I don't really have much experience, but I want to break into software engineering. What's your biggest tip? What would you go for that?
What type of software engineering do you want to do? There's a lot of categories. Is there an industry that you get really excited about, or is there like a stage you like to get into, an early stage company or a big tech company? Like
big tech. Everyone wants big tech. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, if you wanna, a comfortable but perhaps a little boring life, big tech is the way to go. Otherwise, if you have an entrepreneurial itch, I would highly encourage you to get into.
You know, the CEO of Google, you got different dreams. Guys, come on now. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so breaking into big tech. Big tech is definitely more of a system, and so some of the best ways to like understand the system are to like talk to the people who are in it, and so talk to people who are evaluating people who are evaluating people who are like prospective joiners. So like these are the type, they're not necessarily recruiters, but they're like people who interview like software engineers. It's great to have these types of events where you bring in folks who are on the inside, quote unquote, and have seen it, but also being able to talk to peers who have also been able to crack through. There are like a couple of things you can do like very tactically to like perform better at these interviews. There's like, cracking the coding interview and just like mashing your head against these problems for a while. And then there are things that you can do to sort of like improve your overall creativity and problem solving abilities. I would say like taking initiative and starting to work on a side project or something like of this nature. Like that's a really strong sign that you're able to think outside the box. And that's like, that's a positive signal, whether you're trying to start a new company or whether you're trying to join a big tech company. Just generally, it's a good thing. It'll also allow you to kind of connect really interesting dots during an interview.